Wasabi guys, welcome back to another Magic Market Watch video. Finishing off the first week of September, we have some impact from Dominaria United, but sadly it's the same story for most of these cards. As always, if you appreciate these, please hit the subscribe button. We are now past 41,000, so thank you so much for that. And over the past month, we've been talking about market manipulation because it's been getting worse. Last week almost seemed like a bit of a reprieve, but we eventually found out, yeah, there's still a lot of market manipulation going on with trusted sellers on TCGplayer.com. Again, to get you caught up if you haven't seen my other videos, the website that I use to gather this market information is MTGStocks.com. The charts that you see here comes from TCGplayer data. So if there's a listed price average over on TCGplayer, you're going to see it here. And if there's a market price average, that's what the card is actually selling for. And then you have the same thing for foils. You'll have a listed price, and then you'll have what it's actually selling as the market. I have some cards that I would like to talk about, but unfortunately I will be following up towards the end of this video with some pretty ridiculous price hikes from 100% feedback sellers who are just taking advantage of the direct feature on TCGplayer. This first one is Yoshimaru Ever Faithful, one that is actually sought after because of the legendary themes coming out of Dominaria United. It is a commander card, so it's not like you're going to see this in Modern or Pioneer. If it's not commander, you're probably not going to see it, which is why it's been pretty much a sub $3 card. Whenever another legendary permanent enters the battlefield under your control, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. With all the good legendary synergies out of this set, something like this that's so simple it's just 1 white mana, you do get a huge upside here for that mana investment. Not a complex card, not super interesting, but for 1 white mana I could definitely see the value and someone wanting to get this for their legendary themed deck. However, you go over on TCGplayer, what's the first listing? Of course we get our friends here. Something that I think I've failed to mention over the past month is that it's not just the cart optimizer where they're taking advantage of the direct feature, but they're also making it a lot easier for them to be the first listing that someone sees when they want to go buy something like Yoshimaru. A common defense that you're going to hear from people is that if you do not look, if you do not take the time to check the price, then you deserve to get fleeced. And while to some extent I can share that sentiment as a fellow buyer, from the perspective of someone who sold Magic cards in the past, this is incredibly unethical. And these are from large sellers too. Last Safe Point is a 50,000 plus seller on this website. So they're in that upper tier of sellers. And when you see that 100% feedback score, you trust that they're going to give you a price that's fair. Never said they had to list it at the cheapest, just that they're not fleecing an extra $5 or $10 when they feel like it, just because they can, just because they're still going to have the direct feature. And last week, I thought that would have changed. I didn't see as many of their listings with the direct feature, the blue lightning bolt. So I was led to believe that something happened. TCGplayer said, hey, we can't have you doing this anymore, so you can still sell on our website, but you're not going to be the first one that comes up every time. And you can see the sales too. I wouldn't make a big deal out of this if it wasn't working. You can see someone actually bought this for $7.39, when on average it's only like $2 to $3 at best for every other sale. See another one on the 5th of September that sold for $7.39. You actually see a couple, and of course he had 2 on the 6th. So people are actually getting fleeced. To take a break from it for a second, we have another card that I think has potential to go up, and it's because of genuine market interest. It is going up a little bit already, about 25%. Kethis the Hidden Hand is more of a daily trend, but I think it could turn into a weekly trend by next week. And that's of course because of the legendary themes coming out of Dominaria United. It makes sense, and I like talking about the market when it makes sense. And you go over on the website, you see, what are the sales like, and they seem to be genuine. Like the average seller here is not charging an insane premium for this card. They're charging something that's fair. And a lot of the ones that you're seeing at $3, it's usually because they don't charge the shipping that the ones that are $1.50 would. So it makes sense. And we also have Aryan from MTGStocks.com. I hope I pronounced the name right. But Aryan every week has the weekly winners. And what they do is they mostly just focus on actual interest in the market and what's going up because of the meta's changing. Astral Dragon was one of them, and it's not a huge percentage increase. It's the most disappointing thing about the set, is that we're not seeing explosive trends. But Astral Dragon is going up because of the blue-black Dragon Planeswalker commander. You could play a blue-black Dragon tribal deck, and this is a blue dragon. They're not super common, so I could definitely see this being desirable. They also talked about Fairy Noble being probably the biggest gain coming out of Dominaria United so far. We do have the potential for Fairy Tribal with Ivy Gleeful Spell Thief, Again, this is a little disappointing because it's not a massive gainer. I know percentage-wise it is, but it's going back to where it was at the beginning of the year. Now for the weekly market trend, we have Mishra's workshop going back to around a 3,000 plus market value. You have the caution sign right next to it, which is hilarious because this is usually whenever there's some kind of buyout and you'll see a card go from like $1 to 20 overnight. It's funny because this is a card that is actually worth around 3,000 to 4,000. But over the past couple weeks, its market value went down because I don't know how it happened. Someone was able to buy a couple $500 Mishra's workshops. So the fact that it sold again more recently for around 3,000 to 4,000 drove the market value back up. And that's where you get the caution sign because that's over 500%. And dollar-wise, that's a lot of money. But the first one, this is maybe the most ridiculous card this week because it's the only one of the printing that's actually going up here. Regal Force from the dual deck Elves versus Inventors. Really cool card in green, of course, you get a lot of card draw there. Green does have potential to draw a lot of cards at once. So it going up overnight, it seems, to $10, and it being the only printing, of course, I am a bit skeptical. So let's go check it out on the TCGplayer. And again, what's the first price we see? $19.98 by last save point. You just saw the market value is $10, and this is why. Because when people buy it at a higher premium when they don't mean to, that market value goes up. And you look at the 6th page here, this is really to showcase how bad it is. You see these listings at the top, and then they have the $5 shipping, so it ends up pushing them all the way back. I don't have a problem with that as much because I understand it's more expensive to ship things if you're not getting your profit margins, so they might have to charge a little bit more to make up for that. But of course we have our friends at the bottom here. Moderately played is the same exact value as lightly played according to last save point. Next page you can see them again at the top, same value. But what's even funnier is that they're not the worst offender for this card. You see other sellers, you see MTG Rares selling it at $19.99, another 50,000 plus seller. Of course, the most ridiculous here is the nearly $1,000 listings to get ARG Circuit Series, Loot Box, and Joyra's Closet. Breaks my heart because I've bought from Joyra's Closet, that's a name I remember. I don't know what they're thinking here. I guess it's for the chance that they might be fleecing someone out of nearly $1,000 if they don't care to pay attention. Like, they honestly think you're stupid enough to do that. I expect to see this out of some sellers, usually sellers who have lower sales numbers. But what do you see? You see two 100% feedback scores. Someone mentioned to me in my comment section that the feedback system for TCGplayer is just broken because you can actually have your negative feedback deleted. You could be blocked from giving feedback to these sellers. That is a TCGplayer fault. That is a TCGplayer red flag. That is anti-consumer. Like, let me make that perfectly clear. Even if you don't believe the theories about the card optimizer, about the direct feature, any of that, you have to see that these are unfair prices from large sellers who have 100% feedback scores, and you have to ask yourself, are you being treated fairly? Are other people being treated fairly? I have seen people say that their card optimizer jacked up the total price for their cards by like $100 or more, and this is happening all the time from sellers with perfect feedback scores. What's the adage, if everyone's perfect, no one is? That's the same thing with this. If everyone has a perfect 100% feedback score and they're ripping you off using a feature that's meant for convenience, then are they really a perfect feedback seller? You go on Amazon, you go on eBay, that's not the case. I'm not saying those feedback systems are perfect, but at least you know if someone's scamming on those sites, they're a lot less likely to have a perfect score than they would on this site. Again, if you just want to understand why this is so unusual, look at the Regal Force in the middle. So that's $10 compared to the one on the left and the one on the right, where you have $3 or $4. It's unusual to have one to go up like that and the others don't at all. Because again, it's a bulk card, it's easy to find a lot of these cards from pre-con decks and just load up on them. We have another gainer here that again is suspicious. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again. We know why it's going up. It's a Commander pre-con card, easy to load up on, easy to have a large inventory filled with these, and for that to go up overnight like that when no other Arcane Denial is, that's a huge red flag, so I would stay away from this one. Emergent Zone, kind of a fair price. It's going up, but it's not really that insane. I could totally see people having a genuine interest in this card for the metas, not just in Commander, but for Pioneer. But again, we go over on TCGplayer.com, what do you see? You see probably the reason why it's going up. We have Sky Sovereign Console Flagship. This is a smaller percentage increase, but it is still one of the bigger gainers of the week, or at least on the dailies, getting now back above $2. But again, we have to go check, we have to see the listings, and there you go, there's the usual suspects. The only real genuine gainer here that I think is worth talking about is Tomb of Urami. Over the past couple weeks, I've seen this card and I've waited to talk about it because I wasn't really sure why it was going up. It is an older card from Saviors of Kamigawa, which means that people are a lot less likely to have a lot of these. So the rip-off artists, the usual rip-off artists, aren't going to have as many of these as the pre-con cards. I think it's probably because it's a legendary land. It does have this weird ability where you can sacrifice all your lands to put a legendary 5/5 black demon spirit creature token with flying into play. But again, you do have to sacrifice all of your lands to do that, which it could be a different format being the reason why this is going up. I look at the listings and they seem to be fair. You can always double check for yourself. You can see here with view sales history that this is very organic. You see a lot of variety here. Variety in the listings, variety in the conditions, with the most expensive one here being a foil. This is what I like to see. This is what I used to talk about more often because it's what the market trends would show me before the previous month. But with all these sellers trying to rip people off, take advantage of a feature on the largest marketplace that people use for this game, that has changed and now it's been dominated by all this market manipulation. So again, I implore you, if you care about the market, if you care about your fellow players, if you want this experience for them to be pleasant, I would suggest you email TCGplayer.com, contact them through social media if possible. Again, don't harass anybody, politely request that they do something about this, because it is a problem. And it's their problem, and it may be their fault. I don't know if everyone who's a part of TCGplayer is aware of this, which is why I think it's important to bring it to their attention. I'd hate to think that there are people there who actively encourage this behavior, but I would still like to believe that there's at least someone there who wants to improve the consumer experience. I don't like talking about this because it's a little bit more negative than what I'm used to, but it's important. Like, I'm not just cherry picking information here. This is happening every week. We see several sellers doing this, one seller doing it more often, of course, but they're setting a trend, and a lot of other sellers who are less than honest are going to do the same exact thing. With Regal Force, that was just bad. I don't know what else to say. You have a direct feature next to all of those sellers. Nearly $1,000 for a $3 card. That's embarrassing. So Commander Void here signing off. I will see you all next time.